Well, the podcast that dives deep into the science behind DHA and its essential role in health. I'm your host, Bassam Hallak, and today we're joined by Professor Barbara Meyer, a leading researcher in omega-3 fatty acids and DHA. Barbara has conducted critical studies on the intake of omega-3 in the Australian population and with a particular focus on children. Barbara, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to discuss this important topic, especially omega 3s and how they play such a critical role in both child development and also maternal health.
Well, that's why we're here today, and I'm sure the listeners are keen to hear what you have to say. To start, let's talk about omega 3. What exactly are omega 3 fatty acids and why are they so important to both children and pregnant women?
Well, omega 3 fatty acids, including DHA or docosahexaenoic acid, and EPA, which is eicosapentaenoic acid, are polyunsaturated fats essential for many bodily functions. DHA is particularly important for brain and eye development, while EPA plays a critical role in reducing inflammation. For children, DHA is crucial for cognitive development, and during pregnancy, it's vital for fetal brain and eye development. And in both cases, omega 3s are foundational for proper growth and health.
That's great insights. But in terms of with your research, you focused on the dietary intake of omega 3 and also omega 6 fatty acids in Australia. What did you find regarding the general population intake of both of these?
Well, our study, called Dietary Intakes and Food Sources of Omega 3 and Omega 6 Polyunsaturated Fatty Acids, found that the Australian population generally has inadequate omega 3 intakes. Most people consume high amounts of omega 6 fatty acids, which are more prevalent in processed foods, vegetable oils, and snacks. However, omega 3 intake, especially DHA, is often below the recommended levels for the vast majority of the Australian population. This imbalance of too much omega 6 and not enough omega 3 can lead to health issues, as omega 6s can promote inflammation if not balanced with omega 3s.
So it sounds like what you're saying is Australians, including children, and I'm sure this is the same case in other countries, Western countries as well, are not getting enough omega 3s in their diets. What are some of the main food sources of omega 3 and how can people improve their intake?
The main food sources of omega 3s, DHA, are fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines, as well as algal oil for those who follow plant based diets. Chia seeds, flax seeds, and walnuts also provide omega 3s, but in the form of alpha linolenic acid, which is where the body needs to convert alpha linolenic acid to EPA and DHA. Though this conversion isn't very efficient. So, do you know why this conversion isn't very efficient?
Please tell us.
Because we're consuming far too many omega 6s in our diet, and we need to reduce the omega 6s for the conversion of alpha linolenic acid to be converted to EPA and DHA. So we definitely need to reduce our intakes of omega 6s. So reduce your processed foods intake and so forth, as well as increase our omega 3 intakes, particularly DHA, through consumption of fish and seafood. Now, for pregnant women and children, focusing on DHA rich sources like fatty fish or supplements can make a big difference. Unfortunately, most Australian diets don't contain enough of these foods. When I looked at the Australian dietary intake, Australians consume a lot of meat
Mm.
rather than fish and seafood. And whilst meat contains a little bit of omega 3s, fish and seafood contain a hell of a lot more. So it's much better to consume the fish in our diets. And we often see a reliance on omega 6 rich oils like vegetable oils in our diet, which create this imbalance between omega 6s and omega 3s. So we want to reduce our omega 6s and increase our omega 3 intakes.
That's really interesting that you talk about the the intake of omega 6 has an impact on the conversion of ALA to DHA. Could you maybe talk a bit more about that?
Certainly. So, if we reduce our omega 6 intake, our ability to convert alpha linolenic acid through to EPA and DHA will increase, but this increase is slight increase. It's not the be all and end all of
Yeah,
increasing your omega 3 status of our bodies.
that's an interesting point about omega 6 to omega 3 ratio. Can you tell us more about the implications of this imbalance, particularly in children?
So, well, children, assuming they can consume a lot of processed foods, then they'll be getting a lot of omega 6s in their diet. And a lot of children just don't want to eat fish. So they're not getting much in the form of DHA directly in their diet.
Yeah.
So their imbalance is going to be there. They'll have too much omega 6s and not enough omega 3s. And when we consume omega 6s, they actually displace the omega 3s from our cells. So our cells have a certain amount of polyunsaturated fatty acids,
Yep.
and that is kept constant, but both omega 6 and omega 3 are polyunsaturated fatty acids. And if we have too much omega 6, out go the omega 3s. But then if we consume our omega 3s or supplement with omega 3s, out goes the omega 6s. But we need to have that balance of omega 6 to omega 3.
That's a really great explanation, Barbara. Can you further elaborate on this imbalance of omega 6 and omega 3 diet?
Sure. This imbalance with having too much omega 6 and not enough omega 3 has significant health implications. So, when we consume too many omega 6s without enough omega 3s to balance them, it can promote inflammation and increase the risk of chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and may even affect proper neurological development in children. So, for children, DHA is crucial for brain development and cognitive function. Studies show that inadequate omega 3 intake during early childhood can contribute to issues such as attention deficits, learning difficulties, and potentially even long term impacts on behaviour and mental health. Pregnant women similarly need adequate DHA for the optimal brain development of their babies.
That really underscores the importance of DHA for children's brain development. You mentioned the role of DHA in maternal health. Can you expand on that, especially in the context of pregnancy?
DHA is vital for maternal health during pregnancy because it supports placental function, immune regulation, and reduces inflammation. In pregnancy, adequate DHA intake is associated with better outcomes, such as reduced risk for preterm birth. And for the fetus, DHA is essential for brain and eye development. Now, if pregnant women don't get enough DHA, it can impact the development of the baby's brain structure, visual function, and even cognitive performance later in life. Therefore, ensuring pregnant women have sufficient DHA intake is a priority for both the mother and the child's health.
It seems clear that DHA is essential for both the mother and the baby, but the challenges with omega 3 intake in the Australian population, and I'd assume it'd be the same issue with other Western countries. What steps should Australians take to ensure that they're getting enough DHA, especially if they're pregnant or having a young children?
Well, firstly, I think we need to raise awareness about the importance of DHA, and that is key. Australians need to be more mindful of food choices that are rich in omega 3, and then incorporating fatty fish into the diet twice a week, and yes, twice a week is ideal. It's the most ideal approach for most people, especially for pregnant women and children. For those that don't eat fish, omega 3 supplements derived from fish oil or algal oil are an excellent alternative. In addition, pregnant women should ensure that they're consuming DHA rich foods or supplements throughout their pregnancy and even during breastfeeding, as DHA is crucial for the baby's ongoing development. And lastly, public health campaigns. They could play a role in encouraging better dietary sources. School programs that teach the importance of omega 3s and their food sources could help children start a lifetime of better nutrition.
That's excellent advice. It sounds like a combination of dietary education, targeted supplementation, and healthy policy, or health policies, I should say, could really improve omega 3 intake across the population. But before we wrap up, Barbara, what key takeaways should listeners have when it comes to DHA and omega 3s in particular, in part of their diet?
Well, the key takeaway message here is that omega 3s, particularly DHA, are essential for both brain health and overall health, especially during pregnancy and in young children. For pregnant women, ensuring adequate DHA intake supports fetal brain development and reducing the risk of complications. And for children, DHA is fundamental to cognitive and behavioural development. So, by improving omega 3 intake across the population through diet and supplementation, we can help prevent future health issues improve development, and set up future generations for success.
Barbara, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. It has been a pleasure to really explore this connection with healthy children and pregnant mothers and DHA. This has been a valuable conversation on the importance of this topic in pregnancy and childhood development.
Thank you. It was great to discuss these critical issues, and I hope our conversation encourages more Australians to focus on improving their omega-3 intake for better health outcomes.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to The Good Oil. If you're interested in learning more about DHA, be sure to stay tuned. Till then, take care and stay healthy.
Every kick and every beat, DHA keeps the bond complete. Ooh, the bond complete. Moms to be, don't miss your cue. Fisher supplements, just choose what's true from first heartbeat to the final stretch.